Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to follow me along on my adoption journey. Taylor is currently on my lap getting a massage because that's what she's decided it's time for. So if you hear weird grunting noises, that's my dog. So anyway, I want to do a video about mom guilt. This was kind of brought up in my breastfeeding journey video. My pump broke and you guys were amazing in your replies on what to do. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. But I think someone mentioned something about mom guilt or pressure that we put on ourselves, especially those that are adopting. We feel the need that we have to be this perfect mom. And I don't think I realized it until they said that I was like, yeah, breastfeeding is definitely one of those things that is in that category for me. I mean, I've always, like, in terms of having my own children, I wanted to breastfeed. And now having my own children through adoption, it's not the easiest thing versus giving birth to a child and then trying to breastfeed them. And I don't know that I felt guilt that I had to breastfeed her, but I definitely feel like I need to give her the best that I can. And I don't know, maybe I would have felt that regardless, even if I did give birth to her. But I think with adoption, like, what she's gone through in her life already, I need to make up for that. I don't know how old she's going to be, but regardless, she's going to have spent a year or more in an orphanage. She's going to probably have been abandoned at birth. She's going to be malnourished and have attachment issues and not know what love is, really, unless she was lucky enough to get put in a foster home, where a foster home with loving foster parents. It is hard to say what she's actually experienced in terms of someone showing her what love is. So especially with attachment, there's a huge, like, ton of pressure on adoptive families to be able to attach to their children. And sometimes, I don't know what you're doing. Sometimes I think that harms adoptive parents more than it helps them, because I've seen adoptive parents that have struggled with attachment. I don't know what Taylor's doing. Struggle with attachment that are afraid to ask for help. I've seen it too with families that have TTC'd for a long time and done IVF and done all this stuff too, where when they struggle, they can't reach out because people say, well, you wanted that. That's what you wanted. You wanted to have a kid, so you need to deal with it, kind of thing. Like, you fought so hard. You did IVF, so you wanted that kid. You deal with the stresses that come along with having a kid. Like, I feel like a lot of people react like that. People that don't understand that regardless of how your child comes to you, you're still a parent. And if you're a first-time parent, you're still a first-time parent. And the struggles that come with a first-time parent do not lessen because you fought for that child, because you fought to adopt that child, because you paid tens of thousands of dollars to bring that child home. You don't magically become this perfect parent. And just because you really wanted a kid doesn't mean it's always easy. I think there's a lot of pressure that, especially with adoption and attachment, that when you meet your child, you are expected to love them right away. That you are expected to just have this instant bond with your child, and it doesn't happen always like that. And then you end up with, like, post-adoption depression, post-adoption blues, because you don't have the support and the people that expect it. Whereas if a woman gives birth and she's struggling with depression, people go, okay, get help, you have postpartum depression. People who adopt and are experiencing a lot of the same things, like, oh, I'm not sure I love my child, I don't feel this connection to my child. If that was a person that gave birth, people would be like, go speak to your doctor, you probably have postpartum depression. If people say that about someone that's adopted, if an adoptive parent says that, people act a lot differently. So I just think there's a lot of pressure and a lot of mom guilt to enter into this adoption and come home with a child that you love and do the best for. And I hate to use dog analogies, but I use them more than I care to admit. But when my previous dog passed, 48 hours after he passed, I got Taylor, because Taylor, get out of there, because I emotionally needed something there when I went back to where I was living. I was living in an extremely remote community, and I would not have survived without something there. So anyway, it took me a long time to emotionally attach to her because I had so much guilt surrounding that I was replacing my other dog. And I felt that I couldn't love her because loving her meant not loving him, if that makes sense. Anyway, with attachment and adoption, there's a lot of like, I must love this child because I fought for them. I must love this child because I chose to adopt them. And I must do this perfectly. I must be able to handle this because this is what I chose. And if I can't handle it, I'm a horrible person. I'm a horrible parent. And so many adoptive parents don't know where to reach out because of the fact that there's not as much support. There's not as much sympathy or empathy with adoptive parents compared to support for, I don't know what she's got. Support for, she's eating supper. Support for families that give birth. Like if families are struggling because they're not sleeping through the night, their child's not sleeping through the night, people will help them. Whereas I think with adoptive families, it's a lot harder to reach out. If my 3-year-old is not sleeping through the night and I can't handle it anymore, I think it's a lot harder to reach out. Anyway, the whole breastfeeding thing, because now I'm just rambling. I really wanted to breastfeed my daughter. And there was a lot of like, I need to at least try. I need to at least try because if I don't try, it means I'm not doing my best, and all that mom guilt around that. And I truly believe breast is best. I'm sorry for those that choose to formula feed, if you find that offensive, but there is, yes, your baby can survive off of formula. Yes, like formula has saved lives. I understand that, but especially dairy formula, a baby cow is meant to have dairy milk, not your child. Your child is not a baby cow, therefore that milk is not meant for your kid. Your body made milk for your child, maybe made milk for your child. That's the milk that's meant for your child. And you look at formulas and how much crap is in formulas, it is scary. It is scary what we feed our children and say that it's okay. Children can live off of McDonald's. You can feed your child McDonald's every day and they will survive. I mean, there's health issues and whatnot associated with that. Children can survive off of pretty much anything, but it doesn't mean it's good for them. And that's how I feel with formula. Yes, formula will do what it needs to do, but it's not as good as breast milk. It's not. Especially if the mother is eating a whole food plant-based diet, it's even better. But even if the mother isn't, her body is producing the milk for her baby, what the baby needs at that time. So anyway, I'm totally losing my track of thought again, but so yeah, I think it's really hard for me to have such a strong belief about it and then have to give my daughter formula. Donor milk I have looked into extensively, and it is not an easy thing to do. It's not. I would have to drive to the city all the time to get it, probably at least once a week, because I don't have a big enough freezer to store enough breast milk to have it last long enough, and I don't want to be spending all that time driving back and forth to the city. It's different if I was going to the city regardless, but I don't know. So I'm really trying to let go of that, trying to be like, it's okay. And it's funny because back when I was doing private adoption, I did a whole video on breastfeeding, adoptive breastfeeding. I'll try to remember to link it up here. But I did a whole video on this, and I came to the conclusion that I was okay with formula. Mind you, I wasn't vegan at the time, so yeah. And I also was not a postpartum doula. I was not a breastfeeding counselor. I was not like as knowledgeable as I am now. But still, at that point, I was like, okay, it's really hard to induce lactation. It's really hard to get the child to latch, and I'm okay with feeding formula. And I'm trying to get to that point again. And especially, a lot of you mentioned it, and I don't know why I didn't like connect the dots with this, but getting a toddler to latch is going to be like pretty much impossible. It's not to say it can't be done, but a toddler that's had a bottle for her entire life, to then try to get her to latch, it's going to be hard. A child with Down syndrome struggles to latch to begin with. And then you have the fact that most orphanages snip the nipple, so that way it's like super fast flow, which then makes the child not have to work for it. So to try to have this battle of either I'm pumping all the time in order to try to produce milk, and then pumping constantly to try to keep up my supply, and my life ends up revolving around pumping when it should be revolving around attachment. That's my one fear, is that that's gonna be my life. And even the little bit of pumping that I was doing, there was times when I'm like, hey, I have to pump now. This is great. Now I'm stuck in my bed while I pump. So I either end up doing that, or I end up trying to get her to latch, which could be like this endless battle that could honestly ruin the attachment experience for us. I think my goal now, to try to alleviate as much guilt as possible, but also not make it as much work for me, is to try to be okay with formula feeding. I did find a formula that I'm okay with, Earth's Best soy formula. Here in Canada is honestly my favorite out of my options. It's organic, non-GMO. There's one called Babies Only, I think, in the States, that's non-GMO, doesn't have corn syrup and stuff, but it is a huge hassle to try to get it here and insanely expensive. So I'm going to go with Earth's Best organic soy, and go from there and see. Honestly, depending on how old she is, I'll talk about it in another video, but I don't know how long she's even going to be on it. What else? So I'm going to do that, and then possibly if she wants to, like, we'll do skin to skin to try to do some attachment there. If she wants to comfort nurse, if that makes sense, then we will try that. But I think I just need to drop the guilt and be like, whatever I do will be okay. There is no perfect solution. There is no perfect parent. No matter what I do, it's not going to be perfection. So why create more stress and more guilt on myself? Why should I spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours trying to pump, and money spent pumping when I might never even get there? Why try to fight and get her to latch when it might affect our attachment relationship, our bonding experience, by having this battle? So yeah, I'm totally rambling, and I hope some of this made sense. But yeah, thank you guys for your support, because you brought up a lot of good points, especially when it came to the latching. I think that helped a lot to be like, okay, like, this is a battle that I might never even win, and it would be a long fight to get there. Kayla, can you stop licking my leg? Me and Taylor are now fully bonded and attached. We have a good relationship. And yeah, sometimes it just takes time. Sometimes it just takes time. But I'm hoping that if I am struggling, I will have the courage to reach out for help. But anyway, that's it. That's my ramblers for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, to follow me along on this journey and to hear me ramble about other things. Questions, comments, go down below. Thanks for watching. I shall see you guys later. Bye, guys.